of all, before I say anything, I'm sitting there as my daughter is saying all these wonderful words, and I'm trying to figure out who she's talking about. I don't have a clue. I think we have a revisionist history in our family. We managed to take whatever it is, and however, Robin is probably just the most incredible person that you could possibly know. For everything that she said about us, it goes double for her. Hoping that it had something to do with our influence. But she made a reference earlier to the fact that we're all a family of choice. And Robin was definitely a family of choice because when Micki and I first got married, Robin was Micki's child from a former marriage. She was 5 years old. And as I tell everybody, Micki was okay. I fell in love with Robin. So I figured, in order to get the package, I had to marry Micki, and so then I got Robin. So actually, thank you very much, and again, I don't know who you were speaking about. Secondly, I'd like to welcome everybody. I'd like to welcome my children, Robin, Will, and also especially Melissa and Hunter, who came all the way down from Oviedo, Florida, which is up near Orlando, to spend Shabbos with us yesterday and then spend today with us at this event. So we really appreciate it. We're unfortunately missing Melissa's significant other, Alan, who unfortunately was not well, but I know that he's here in spirit, and he is also an incredibly wonderful person. Of course, I'd like to welcome everybody. Thank you for coming. And I'd just like to say one thing, that the rabbi always puts me in the position of the cleanup batter. So usually what happens is the rabbi will tell everybody, we're a little bit behind today in the services, so I'm going to speak a little bit less in between the aliyahs, and then when we get to the drush, I'm going to speak a little less, and then of course the rabbi does a great job as always, and there's no reason for him to do any less. But then he usually kind of comes over to me because I do the Musaf davening, and he says, we want to get to Kiddush by 12 o'clock. So, being that I'm the cleanup batter once again today, and the other thing is when the rabbi usually asks me to speak or at a Kiddush, I'll have a few things in mind, and by the time we get there, he's covered everything. So, all the paper I have here, most of it, it's all done. Thank you, Rabbi. I think one of the things that he did say, and I do have just a couple of remarks about Chabad in general, and our Chabad. But the rabbi, he did say we studied together, we become incredible friends. I consider him as one of my children. And actually, more so than that, there's nobody I know at the rabbi's age has the incredible amount of knowledge that he does. Every single day, he amazes me. I mean, I will question him on many, many things, especially in our studying. He's now started a Tuesday lunch and learn, which we go to. And unfortunately, I said to him this past week, I said, I know that you prepare for this. You're constantly preparing for all kinds of sessions. And unfortunately, our group, we didn't let you get past, the jump. He started out with the first couple of statements, and then we started coming in. And then, of course, as we kind of learned in the Gemara, the mission is a little different, but the Gemara is kind of rabbis getting involved and getting way off base, off track. And we follow that tradition quite well. We start out with one thing and then we kind of end up with something different. It's an incredible amount of learning, and I feel in the few years that I've learned and with the rabbi and spent time with the rabbi that I've grown incredibly, and so has Micki as well, both of us. So not to go through the history which the rabbi did of how we all came together. By the way, I'd also like to give some credit to Ava Phillips because aside from Hannah Carden, who had introduced us and tried to make a shit up, Ava, who many of you know, I thought she might have been here today, but I guess not. At any rate, she also spent some time, many times, saying to me, there's this wonderful young rabbi here. You really need to meet him, and it would really be beneficial considering that you have this Orthodox minion that's kind of failing, unfortunately, because of older people and people dying, and then COVID came. And it would be wonderful if you two met and potentially joined forces, which of course happened, and that's history. But I think the only quick story there I'll replace some of the rest of this with is one of the things that happened that actually drew the rabbi and myself closer was Micki and I were traveling, and we had a wonderful trip to Italy. And we spent 2 Shabbos, one in Rome, which was wonderful, and then we spent the second one in Venice. And in Rome, we went to the traditional Orthodox shul there, and they had a wonderful little community. We were able to get a beautiful Shabbos meal. But when we were in Venice, we went to the Chabad. And it was like being home. It was just incredible. The small group, we had just arrived there. I don't know if you all remember, but back in 2019, Venice had incredible flooding. It was like historical. The floods were so bad that they had ramps up on the streets, and people were getting soaking wet, even with these high ramps. They were like tables walking through the streets. At any rate, the Chabad that we went to, this was just about 5 or 6 days later, the waters had receded. The Chabad that we went to had managed to get cleaned up as best as they could. You could see the high water mark. Went to shul, sat down, wonderful people, and for some reason or another, they immediately came over to me and they said, you know, are you a Levi or Cohen? I said, I'm a Levi. And they gave me the Levi Aliyah. So I come up and I get the Aliyah, and then I go, you know, I want to send a gift. And so the rabbi came over to me after, and he said to me, he said, I got to explain something to you. He says, we have a tradition here. I said, yes. I said, the tradition here is, we'll take your money. There's no problem with that. However, if you come up and you make a pledge, you also have to pledge to study 1 hour of Tanya. And I'm going, what? Well, when you get back to Florida where you are, he says, and it turns out that the rabbi's wife came from plantation, so they knew of Rabbi Koppel, and they said, you need to go to your rabbi, and you need to tell him that you need to study 1 hour of Tanya. Well, of course, I called Rabbi Koppel, and Rabbi immediately said, perfect, that's fine, no problem, I'll come over to your house, we'll study. And he did. He selected an incredible, very poignant piece of Tanya, Lamed Gimel, which was a section about, you know, loving your neighbor as you love yourself. It's a very famous portion of Tanya. And basically that really kind of started our studying together from that point on. So it was really b'sher, as we can only say. Continuing on, so that's basically a lot of history as to how we all kind of got together. But since our joining of forces, which it really turned out to be fine, because in the very beginning, we were just making minions, and you know, there might have been a Shabbos or two where we didn't have a minion, because we brought over, and I really thank again, Keith, you're here, Gerry, Ross, and he's in New York, yeah, and I think there was 1 or 2 other people, and Richard as well. You know, all kind of followed me, not that it was anybody to follow, but came over to the Chabad. And so where Armenia, where the Jewish Center of Tamarack only kind of had 6 or 7 regulars, now I brought in 4 or 5, and so we were able to have a minyan. And as it turns now, thank God, I think, how long has it been around? It's probably been almost 2 years now that I don't think we've missed a minyan. I mean, it's been incredible. And on times when we really could have missed one. A week ago, we had a terrible rainstorm coming, and as it turns out, all the people that walk to shul got there. The people that drive to shul, they were late. So it was kind of interesting. But anyway, so we have grown tremendously since then, and in no small way has this been due to the hard work of Rabbi Koppel and Goldie, because they have just been the Energizer Bunnies. It's just I can't even imagine having that much energy and ability to continually think up new programs and do them well. Nothing that Rabbi Koppel and Goldie does, nothing, and I'm saying absolutely nothing, is not done well. It's done well, and it's done with a lot of caring and a lot of planning and a lot of thought. So it really, and that's what makes everybody keep coming back. I've had, as I said, I've had the pleasure of working with him. I've had the pleasure of being the shul's gabbai. I'm getting closer to remember most of your names. It's going to take time. Sometimes I can remember your first name and not your second name, but we'll get there sometime. And then, anyway, so I just would like to say that I hope that our community continues to grow as it is, and I hope that we get larger and we get more people. But I think it's only due to the the fact of how welcoming we are, and it's again due to the rabbi's leadership. I can refer to the parsha this week, which was called Nitzavim. And Nitzavim means standing up tall. Moshe tells us in this parsha that we must stand together as one and stand tall in our belief and worship of Hashem. I believe we're following this directive here at Chabad Jewish Center of Talmud. And for those of you that don't know, everybody seems to see, we see the word Chabad and it becomes very, very normal to us. We see it all over. But Chabad actually stands for something. Chabad in Hebrew is 3 letters. It's Chaf, Beis, and Dalet. Chaf stands for Chesed. Chesed is kindness. Beis stands for Bina, which means understanding. And Dalet stands for Das, which means knowledge. I believe that our congregation, you will see all of these characteristics, and these define us as a group. Thank you very much for your honor. I appreciate it very, very much.